Warrior needs bad.
Big money! Big prizes! I love it!
And welcome to another episode of Retrovaniacs. As always, I am Jeremy Parmentier here with Jeremy Gregory.
Hey there.
And Billy Holiday.
Hello.
Now, we may be hitting some new territory we haven't really come across lately, which is that we actually kind of like the game we're going to talk about today. But before we get to that game, what have you been playing since last time, Billy?
Well, and a lot of people are going to be very baffled by this. This is a game that I had followed. I played the beta or the demo or whatnot when it came around, and I thought it was enjoyable, but I didn't have much time to put into it. And I just kind of was not playing my 360 much of the time, so I never really got into it when it was released. And I just recently got a Xbox One, and I still didn't have any intention of getting it because I had heard pretty much nothing good about it. But then I saw it on sale recently for $5 for the whole thing. The game itself, all the add-ons that came out for it. And that game is a Titanfall. And I have been playing that thing just to death lately. I mean, it's not busy by any means. There's still, even at the lowest, maybe 3,000 or so people playing it. But I've just had such a good time with it. And I think old Jeremy Gregory was going to join me just to humor me, probably, and play a round or two. But I think I may have dragged him in with me.
I played it back when it launched. And when Titanfall first launched, it was fun, but it was a very bare bones game. There wasn't much to it at all. It has a single player, but it has to be played in multiplayer, and it's just bot matches basically. And there wasn't too many maps. I think there was like 9 or 10 or so at launch, and even like the upgrading your character and stuff there wasn't much to it. Very few weapons. Not enough stuff to really be worth unlocking over the course of time, like you'd get in something like Call of Duty. So I played it for about a month and had a lot of fun with it, and just kind of put it down and never played it again. And then when Billy started playing, and he was like, this is really fun. I was like, yeah, I should play that again. Hopped on there with him, and they have added a substantial amount of stuff, most of it for free. I think all of it for free. They've doubled or more the map count now. There are more weapons in it now, and there's just a lot more stuff in general that makes it worth kind of playing over and over, like the whole card system, burn system that the game calls it, and the rank chips and things like that. It makes you feel like there's more substance to the game than there was before. So I have definitely got re-addicted to it, and that is all that I have been playing. So, yeah, I guess I'm playing Titanfall again.
I can see that. I like getting sucked into something like that where it's had a lot of time to kind of flesh itself out, and all of a sudden you jump in and it's all new to you. So, it's nice.
I think it was just one of those things that it was hyped into the stratosphere as like the biggest thing that was ever going to come out when it did. And you play it, and it's really fun when you play it. But, I mean, there was nothing there beyond just the initial wow factor of being able to call down a giant robot and play around in it. And it just did not last. So it's great it's definitely great to come back, I guess now like almost 2 years later, and see what all they've added to this game. And it's pretty impressive what they've added to it.
Yeah, I think it's taken an arc similar to me with Destiny, where, the game, all the hype leading up to it, it came out, and it was fun for a little bit, but once you did everything there was to do, which was not a lot, you kind of got tired of it. But then, come back a year later or so, and there's just so much to do, and it's just a completely different and much better experience.
So I guess what you should take from this is never play video games when they first come out. Come back 2 or 3 years later and get the whole experience.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's especially true with multiplayer games. I mean, none of us have really played a lot of Splatoon, but that's the kind of game where at first it was like, yep, this is okay, but they keep adding more and more and more to it, and now it's, got a pretty dedicated following. I still have no interest in playing it, but it's the same kind of situation. Don't play it at first. Wait a little bit and then jump in.
Yep.
Well, all I've played since last week is RPGs because I don't know why I won't finish them. I just keep starting more and more. So I'm at the end of Xenoblade Chronicles X still. I've been playing a lot of Suikoden since I downloaded that for the Vita. And then today, for no good reason except that I was just staring at the screen with nothing to do, I started playing Phantasy Star 4 for the Sega Genesis because I never played that. I've only played the original Phantasy Star and then Phantasy Star Online, which doesn't really count. And I've had 2, 3, and 4 on that Sonic Genesis collection, so I thought I would go ahead and give that a shot. It's fun. All those games are different enough. I kind of like playing them at the same time just to see how they're different. But Phantasy Star 4 is one of those games where all their games they kind of rename magic spells. So if you have a spell that casts fire, it's not close to anything that would say fire on the spell. It'll have some weird like combination of letters, and you're supposed to figure out what each spell does. I'm sure the book would tell you, but as I don't have a book, I'm just guessing at random by using them every time, which is frustrating. But I'm spoiled by games now, which will tell you literally like this is a fire spell, this is a water spell, this is a healing spell.
I had that problem when I was playing Legend of Grimrock. I never figured out the whole magic thing in that game. I know those are two totally different games, but
well, and
I really had a hard time there.
In Grimrock, I think you're not supposed to know like that. The way that's set up, because you earn magic spells by finding. You'll find the recipes for them basically, like that tell you what. It's like that you design runes essentially, and it tells you what runes will do each thing, and you can only do certain runes at certain power levels. But I think other than the one you start with, if you play a magic user, I think you're supposed to find the others throughout the game. Now, once you've learned them in a previous game, you can just start using it again. You can use a spell without having the page that tells you how to use it, but especially at first, if you just try to randomly pick a bunch of stuff, you're not going to get very far, and sometimes that'll actually kill you. So,
okay.
Like
I do have to ask though. You start a lot of role-playing games.
Yes.
Like, are you one of those kind of people that can play the multiple role-playing games at the same time, or do you just kind of start them and then just go with the one that you like the most and finish that one?
It ends up being that most of the time. I always think I'm going to play them all. Like, right now, in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm definitely going to finish Xenoblade Chronicles, and I'm definitely going to finish Suikoden, because I am going to finish those two. Phantasy Star 4 was kind of an impulse, and I'm into it right now, but I'm going to get to a point with one of those other two games where it's going to take all my time again. At Xenoblade, I'm just at the point where I have to just grind. I have to grind a lot, and I'm not enjoying grinding. I mean, it's not bad, but I really want to get through the fight that I'm in. One of the problems I have with Xenoblade Chronicles is if you accept a story mission, or what they call like a connection mission or a character mission or something like that. But either way, if you start two certain types of missions, you can never cancel them, and you can't pick another mission until you finish that mission. So the one I'm on now is the 11th story mission out of, I believe, 12. And so I'm at the last part of it. But I can't do anything other than grind and finish that mission, or it won't let me accept other missions. And I might have picked it a little too early, so I've got to do a fair amount of grinding. And I'll get back to that at some point. But, yeah, I don't know. I am that person that starts 100 RPGs and doesn't finish them. That's what I do. But I like to play them enough where I have an idea how the system works. And I always find something that grabs me in the systems. So Phantasy Star, it's pretty standard. I'd say it's better than the basic Final Fantasy, but it's probably not better than a more advanced Final Fantasy. But enough about talking about old role-playing games, because this week's game is not a role-playing game at all, in any way, shape, or form. This week we talked about Skullmonkeys for the PlayStation. Skullmonkeys itself is part of a series of games that are the Neverhood series. The first game was put out on the PC only at first. It's a point-and-click adventure game, but it was notable because everything looks like it's made out of clay. And that game is just called the Neverhood. I don't know if you guys had played that before. I did play it, but I haven't finished it.
I played it myself way after the fact, because when I first saw Skullmonkeys on PlayStation, I had no idea that Neverhood even existed. And eventually I found out about Neverhood and was like, oh man, more Skullmonkeys. But no, that game is not Skullmonkeys. It is a point-and-click adventure game that's just what it is. And it's fun. It's cool. It definitely looks cool. Just as crazy as story and characters as what's in Skullmonkeys, but very enjoyable. Holds up well.
Yeah, I had never played the original. I had no clue about it, or really most of this series. I believe as you go through, I have probably played the last one to come around in the series, but I had no clue about the original Neverhood until I had played this one. And I do probably, based on my experience with this one, I'm at least going to go back and give that one a shot, probably.
It's got the same sort of humor that this game has, and it does have the same characters. The story in Skullmonkeys continues from where the Neverhood kind of ends, more or less. But it's a totally different style game because it is point and click. This game, Skullmonkeys, is classic 2D side-scrolling, Mario-style action. But again, everything looks like it's made out of clay, and it's very interesting. All the levels are very different from each other as far as graphically. I mean, the game kind of, what can you do with a 2D side-scrolling running and jumping game that isn't the same over and over again? But the levels look very different, and they do kind of expand as you're going through the game and give you more and more abilities based on just other things that are in the stages. So the Neverhood, if you played Earthworm Jim, is actually a company founded by Doug Tendapel, the creator of Earthworm Jim, who left Shiny and started his own company. And this was the series of games that he put out. I believe they only put out the 3 games in the Neverhood series. Neverhood, which we already discussed, and the game we're going to talk about today, Skullmonkeys, and a third game, Boombots, that we'll talk about a little bit later. Skullmonkeys is the one that I had found first as well. I didn't find the Neverhood. I mean, I had seen it because I was still working at Electronics Boutique when it came out, so I saw the box and everything, but it didn't grab me even though it looked interesting. Skullmonkeys, from the get-go, we only got one copy of it, I believe, when it came out. No one ever bought it. And so eventually it went down to $20, and I took it home, and I immediately was like, I should have bought this at the start of this thing. I don't know why it didn't pick up, except that, I guess, PlayStation era, if you weren't a bad 3D platformer, then Sony wasn't pushing it. And this is definitely not a bad 3D platformer. It's a very solid 2D platformer, of which the PlayStation had very few of.
Yeah, this was just kind of at the time that the PlayStation was out, and 3D video games were like the big thing. And when I say 3D, I mean polygonal. And anything that kind of looked like the older 16-bit games, especially side-scrollers, just got ignored completely. You would be lucky to see any sort of coverage in gaming magazines, definitely no commercials on TV. And especially for something like Skullmonkeys, which was this kind of out-of-nowhere thing that no one really knew anything about. You didn't hear anything about it at all.
No, and I had no clue about this game. I would recognize it once it was brought up. It's what we were playing, and I went on Google to kind of get a look at just the front and whatnot, and it was instantly recognizable. I had seen some shots from it, and especially the main character I had seen in several magazines over the years. But I think the main problem for me was I was around this time. I was a big Nintendo 64 man. I had a PlayStation and an N64, but the PlayStation went ignored for a good part. So a lot of PlayStation games I would not, especially even the bigger ones, I wouldn't catch up on for a few years after they had come along. When the 64, I had kind of died out with that, and I just wanted to look back and go through the bargain bin for the PlayStation and see what I had been missing out on. But still, this one, I just no clue that it really even existed.
Well, it didn't do itself any favors. The screenshots on the back of the box are fine, but they don't really tell you that show you anything other than this is a platformer. And even the first level of the game is pretty straightforward. I mean, literally all you do is run, jump, collect little balls of clay, and try. You can land on enemies to kill them, or you just try to avoid them. and you get a few of the items that you find throughout the game, pickup items. There's a little glowy ball that lets you shoot a bullet forward, and I think you get the birds in the first level maybe, which let you turn your hand turn your hand into a bird that then rips off and flies towards an enemy and explodes at them. It's interesting mechanics, as far as using the idea that the game is made out of clay and looks like clay. A lot of the items really do use that. But again, if you're just playing this the first time, even if there was a demo for this game, I don't know if it would hook you at first because the first level is so basic.
Well, and that goes along with one of my major concerns, because you guys seem very excited about it. So I was hoping we were going to get into a real good game here for a change. I don't think we've done that yet. But I started playing, and I believe I took it to the group chat between the three of us, and I said, does it get any harder? Because I've been playing for like a half hour now, and I think I had probably just taken a hit or two, and it just kept giving you extra lives. I mean, extra lives are very easy to come by in this game, and that's usually for two reasons. One is the game's just extraordinarily easy, or two, something's going to occur later on that is going to completely deplete you of those lives. And it wasn't much later that, the difficulty in this thing ramps up. And, there's new power-ups you pick up along the way, or, new strategies. There's vehicles here and there. Later on, there's vines, and there's new mechanics. And I was playing all the way through, and I was just, this is such a foreign concept after all the games we played. A game that gradually lets you learn and then ramps up the difficulty and lets you apply what you learned during those easier stages. So it's good game design, which is probably why it was such a foreign concept to me.
It's definitely one of those. I mean, it is a long game. So those first few stages, the whole first world basically is super basic. And yeah, if you're kind of expecting the ramp up of other similar games like Mario or something like that, it doesn't come very quickly at all. You've got to wait it out a few worlds before that difficulty ever really comes into play. But once it ramps it up, it's there to stay. It does last all the way to the very end of the game.
Now, do you think it wears out its welcome? I know you just said it was a long game. Do you think it's too long of a game?
As a kid, and this time also when playing it, I definitely got to the point where I was kind of done with it. Like, I love Skullmonkeys. This is one of my favorite platformers of all time, but it is a long game, and it definitely about 3/4 through the game, after you've seen just about every single thing this game can throw at you, and there is a lot of stuff that it keeps bringing up over the course of the game, I just got to the point where I was like, man, I just kind of want to beat this because I'm kind of getting bored with playing the same stuff over and over at this point.
It doesn't lend itself to speed playing. Like, you're not going to do a speed run of this necessarily. I think it'll still take you, 5 or 6 hours to do a speed run on this thing, because there's 17 worlds. 5 bosses are in those worlds, and each world is 3, 4, or 5 segments where you'll go through what would be a regular level of, say, Super Mario Brothers in length, and you'll get from the start of that to the end of that, and then there's like a big clay ball you jump into, and then bam, you're in like stage 1, 2, essentially. They don't name them that, but it's, you basically have to go through 3 or 4 phases in each world before you would get to the end of that world and what's a save point. And it's not really a save point in this case. I found it refreshing that they use passwords on a system that had memory cards and everything else saved. But yeah, at the end of the world, you earn a new password, so you can start from that world going forward. But it's long. I mean, each of those levels is long enough. I mean, you can kind of run through each one in a few minutes, but there are some that you can't. You mentioned the vines, Billy, as something that comes in later. I think that might be the hardest level in the game. Is a level that it's called, like, it might even be just called Int Vines or Int Garden, and it is the timing you need to use on your jumps to get through the vines while not hitting these flying ant people that are all over the stage is ridiculous. I mean, I died over and over and over and over and over again, and I'd beaten this before, so it's not like I didn't know what was coming or what was there, but just the timing was exact. And I think, this is one of those games where you have one hit point. You don't have a life bar. You get hit once and you die. And there are some items you can find that, you get a halo that gives you kind of a shield, and you have looks like a green head covered in mist that lets you fart out a clone of yourself that you can run forward and do all those hard sections, and if it dies, then you don't lose a life, but you go back to where you were. But even with all those things, I still just kept dying over and over again on that stage because the timing was exact, and the difficulty ramps up immediately there. And then I think the next 3 stages after that, I don't think I died once. I think I blew through the next 3 worlds without any problems, but that one's probably world 11 or 12, and it's just ridiculous. So one thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to put it throughout this whole episode, the music in this game is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the regular stage music is good. I mean, it's great. It's probably some of the best we have heard, and I think it definitely where you have had to scramble to figure out what musical interludes you're putting throughout an episode. You won't have any trouble for this. But when I got to the first bonus stage, that bonus stage song, if you don't plan to play the game, at least do yourself the favor of looking up a video of it. Rarely have I stood still and not moved just so I could hear an entire stage's song play out. But I did on this occasion.
Well, you don't even have to find a video. I guarantee you it will be the song at the end of this episode. I'm going to end with a bonus room song. It's pretty great. And then the bonus rooms are, in each world, there are 3 little blue swirlies, look like Dreamcast symbols, hidden in the stage. If you find all 3 swirlies, and you don't have to continue at any point, so you make it through without having run of all your lives, you'll go to a bonus room, which is another place where, as Billy said, they throw 1-ups at you. The bonus stage is just covered in 1-ups and extra items and clay you're supposed to collect, because if you get 100 clay balls, you get extra life as well. I mean, if you can go to all those bonus stages, I don't think you'll have to continue too many times till you get to a level that, for whatever reason, hits you hard. Like, for me, it was the vines and the very last level.
Yeah, I don't think if you can spend any amount of time at all looking through these stages and collecting the little clay balls or whatever and finding the secret hidden rooms, the game is very, very generous with extra lives. Even though it does give out those passwords and stuff like that, I at some point I had like an excess of like 30 extra guys, and so the game is definitely just, if you spend any time with it at all exploring, you're going to have more than enough guys to beat that game.
Well, there are plenty of secrets. I mean, every level has a number of secrets. When you finish the world, it will tell you how many secrets were there and how many you found. And sometimes there are little things like you run past the exit to a level and there's a bunch of items you can pick up. Or other times it's actually pretty involved and you'll have to find a way to activate secret platforms that raise you to parts of the levels you wouldn't normally get to. But yeah, if you take the time to really explore those levels and find all those secrets, I don't think you'd run out of items. Now, I don't know if you guys did this. I do this in every game where you have, pickups like this. I kept, holding them and hoarding them and not using them, so at some point I was playing on my main game and it was like, I have 20 of these fireball things I never use, and I have, 6 or 7 of the fart guys, and I have the whatever his brother is or his friend who collects everything with his giant head. I had a bunch of those. I never used any of them, and then it got to a certain point where I was like, this is why I can't get through these stages. I have all these items, and I'm refusing to use them. And once I did that, I was able to blow through a lot of the things I was getting stuck on. That ice world, because it has to have an ice world, it's a platformer. It's generally not hard, but some of the enemy placement in that is ridiculous to get over if you don't use the items. So once I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I not using these items? I'm not saving them for anything special. I know how this game runs. I've played it all the way through before. I don't need to save these things. Then I actually felt like once you have that many, it almost made it way too easy, because I had this excess of all these attack items and invincibilities and all these other things. I was like, yeah, okay, here we go. Let's just blow up through this game.
Yeah, I did the same. I just collected them. I hoarded them early on, and I was under the impression, all right, it's really easy right now. I don't really need to use these, and I'm going to hold them out, just in case the shit hits the fan later on, and I'm really going to have to. And I'm glad I did. I think that's a good strategy. Hold on to these until you get stuck, and I think through use of most of the items, I mean, there's even an item that just clears out every enemy on the screen, which is handy, especially during the vine stages to get rid of some of those enemies hanging out around there. But yeah, anytime you're stuck here, if you have enough items, you can pretty much blast your way through most problems.
So we've already kind of stated that we all like this game. We think it's a good platformer. I think that this is one of the best platformers I own. I only kept like 3 PlayStation games from all the games I own by this point, and one of them is Skullmonkeys, and the other 2 are the Abe's games. I don't know why I like those games so much, except that I enjoy frustration, but I save those as well. But this game is kind of like a greatest hits of the Super Nintendo and Nintendo era platformers. It has vehicles in some parts. It has a level where you have to ride this beast that constantly runs forward, so you're trying to dodge things in a constantly scrolling, running world. There's Jeremy told me he found a level that I somehow totally didn't find, where you're it's like an overhead shooter. I don't know how I missed a level completely. It's a bonus of some sort. And then again, it has bosses, all of which are different, but are not really that difficult, but at least they all have different mechanics. It's not all the same. It's not Bowser at the end of every 5 levels. It's totally different boss mechanics for each fight. Sometimes, one of them you have a ship that you have to use to shoot at a boss while flying left, up and down on the left side of the screen. So it's got a lot of different variants on the classic 2D platforming and does them all fairly well. I mean, I think even though it's a little long, as long as you're not in a rush and you're willing to enjoy the scenery, it's a great game all around with some flaws. And I'd like to talk about the flaws, so that we don't feel like we're just talking about what a great game this is and that's the end of the podcast. Good night. So my first complaint is the jumping is a little floaty. There's definite parts where when the platforms are very thin and you're trying to do a series of them to get to, from one gap to another, that there's a lot of times where I would accidentally run off the side of a platform, or, I think I was right on to land it, and because of the game everything looks like it's made of clay and it's pretty involved, but I don't want to say I fell through the platform. I definitely missed it, but I thought I was lined up perfectly and I wasn't, and just the slight tap of your controller and you fly, off the side of that platform.
Yeah, the biggest thing with this jump is when he gets to the height of his jump, any other character in a video game will immediately start descending. Clayman, he will get to the top of his jump and then just kind of hang there for just about half a second longer, and that really kind of I've played this game so much that it still, even to this day, affected some of my jumps. I don't know what it is. It's just a really kind of weird control thing with it, but it's still more than playable. And if you've got the bird power up, which allows you to kind of float down, that pretty much negates any problems I had with the jumping.
And I think, yeah, the jumping is a problem. And I thought that a lot of times I thought I had jumped proper enough to land on an enemy to kill them, only to find out that I just sort of grazed the top of them, and I took the hit instead. I thought that the areas kind of where you needed to jump on the enemy weren't very clear, and a lot of times you would make an identical jump. Sometimes you kill them, sometimes you take a hit.
Well, another issue I had was I already kind of mentioned this, but the bosses are extremely easy for the most part. I mean, the very first boss you fight, you might actually kill him before he does an attack by accident. I mean, it's 3 hits on his head and he's out, and you can do that pretty quickly before he does a thing about it. The only boss I had, there's 5 bosses. There's that first boss, it's just like a giant monkey. And then there's a guy called Joe Head Joe, which is I guess one of the developers or someone who worked on the game, their head with like a monkey body attached to it. And it spits fire and shoots its eyes out. Again, all the bosses look really cool, and they have their own neat mechanics. But I thought, once you take 10 seconds to look at the boss and see what he does, you're like, oh, okay. And you'll blow through that boss and no problems.
I didn't really mind. I knew going into this that the bosses weren't really hard, but they're so ridiculous that it's always just fun to see what they are. And they're all usually very large and got some really interesting animations and funny attacks and stuff like that. That I don't think the bosses were ever much supposed to be like something that was super challenging in the game, especially since there's no actual last boss to the game at all. And especially coming from our last platformer, which was JJ and Jeff, which featured the same boss over and over again all the way through. It was nice just to have a little bit of variety in these the bosses that you do get in this game.
Well, it's not a complaint that I think is a major complaint. It was just a minor gripe. But because the other thing is it's hard to balance that. So either your bosses are way too hard or they're way too easy. It's very hard to really nail that perfect level of like this was just hard enough that I feel like I completed something, I accomplished something, but not so hard that I hate this game and I never want to play it again. And yeah, I guess I was just surprised they were so easy because they're all so different, and you could tell they spent a lot of time on those encounters. But then you can just breeze through them.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they spent more time designing them than they did on their attack patterns and whatever. But I don't know, maybe they just wanted them in there just to have fun with them, or just to have bosses because. I don't know. Like I said, just not having a last boss seems to show how much confidence they had in the previous bosses.
Yeah, that's not as much of a complaint, but it is weird to get to the end of a game and just kind of like there's a door, then you go out the door, and that's the end of the game. Good end. The end.
Yeah.
Billy, do you have anything you ran into that you just could not get past as far as just kind of bugged you the whole time?
I mean, it was the vines. I think it's the vine. I think you sit down anybody that plays this, they're going to tell you the vines were the difficult part. But you had spoke about the difficulty of it, but you kept on. And with this game, I think it's a sign of a good game. Even if you find a part where you're dying over and over again, and when the difficulty ramps up, you never really get frustrated. You never really get angry. You never think about I'm just going to quit. You never think about sitting it down and calling it quits on it. And I just think that's a sign of how I mean, even with the trouble, even with the controls, yeah, and the boss is very imaginative to look at, but like you guys said, pretty easy for the most part, even though the one that was the developer's head got an audible gasp out of me. That does not happen too often. But yeah, I just think that even with all the negative, and there are negatives. I mean, I think we've played so many awful games that this looks like a real diamond in the rough to us at this point in time. But yeah, I think it's very well put together. Nothing really was so bad complaint-wise that I really hold it against it. Just very enjoyable altogether.
I guess my only complaint that I found throughout the game, other than just being too long, is it's kind of a weird. It only crops up every now and again, but when it did, I'd die every single time. So in a lot of these stages, the actual background picture is just a picture, it never scrolls. It never goes up, down, left, right, anything. So if you get away from where there are platforms or a part of the stage that is actually moving under you, like if you're dropping down to something below that you can't see or something like that, then nothing is moving on the screen. And so I lost track of whatever inertia I had. I couldn't tell if I was going too far. I wasn't going far enough. And that hit me every now and again to where when it does, I'm just like, man, why couldn't they have just put something? And a lot of the stages they actually do. They have something in the background that actually scrolls in front of that static image. But there are definitely a few stages here and there that just have that static image. And if there's any platforming at all, it's something. It's kind of hard to get past.
So with, like we said, it's a great game, has some minor flaws, but what it makes up with those flaws with is it has a lot of character. The game is actually funny. I think even some of the basic enemies, the fact that it's just these clay monkeys that make screaming monkey sounds while they run back and forth with skulls on their heads. I found all the enemies in the game to at least be interesting the first time you see them. But after certain worlds, you earn little clay videos that explain the story of what's going on. The Clayman's trip through I think it's planet Idznak, to stop Clog from building a mighty engine number 9 machine to come destroy your home planet where he's from originally anyway. There's the story. But it's explained, his journey through the planet is enhanced with these little clay movies. I think they're amazing. I would watch just those clay movies on their own.
Oh, yeah. And this game, and I always get worried when they tout a game for its humor, because humor in video games, I don't know why. It very rarely works for me. But yeah, this game is legitimately funny. You take those scenes, you can make them into a short, and it would be well worth sitting down to watch. All the humor here was just spot on, and especially even if Jeremy Gregory hadn't shown it to me like 7 or 8 times, that Beans cutscene was just as hilarious this time as it was the first.
Possibly the finest fart joke ever put into a video game, and just the fact that the song that's playing while it's happening, God, it's great. I am a simple man when it comes to humor. I can laugh with the best of them at some of the the craziest shit out there, but you put a fucking good fart joke or a poop joke in something, and I will sit there and laugh like a 10-year-old. And this game is definitely filled with that. Just some great animation all around with these, the clay characters, the designs of the characters, and just the little the stories that they put out there with those the little cutscenes and stuff it's really, really great. And I'm not even a fan of claymation. That shit, it kind of creeps me out. But this is one of the only claymation things I've ever had in my entire life that still entertains me to this day, and I still do laugh at that Beans cutscene every time I see it.
Well, I'll have to put it up on Twitter, a link to that, because you're right. That by itself would sell me on this game if I didn't already know what a great game it was.
And it's kind of crazy because, when I rented this, I had no clue what it was. It had Skull in the name, and I like skeletons. So that was really it. And it looked neat on the back of the box, and getting home and seeing what it was and actually playing it, it was a hell of a find. And I would have hated missing out on this back in the day.
So after Skullmonkeys, the Neverhood only put out one more game as the Neverhood, which was called Boombots. I was very excited when I saw Boombots was coming out because I had played Skullmonkeys and I loved it, and I saw that Clayman was a character in this game. And I took it home, and it is essentially like a 2-player Power Stone style fighting game. It's a 3D area arena where you can run around, you find pickups, and you throw them at each other, and you get some basic abilities that shoot things at each other, but it's only 2 players. And it's not like you have 2 players and a bunch of computer opponents. It's one-on-one fighting. There is nothing else to it. It does have some of those cinema scenes like this did, but not nearly as many, and they weren't nearly as good. I found it to be... it's almost like it felt like it was a piece of a game, and they didn't finish that game. And like, that's fine, just put it out. That's what we have money for. That's what we're going to do. Very disappointing.
Yeah, I think another big it's much like Power Stone. I think one of the big differences was Power Stone was good, but with this one, this is the only game from this developer that I had played, and having played this one, if I knew they had made previous games, I probably wouldn't have touched them. This was just a dismal game. It's more in line with what we would review here normally.
I didn't even know that Boombots was connected to it. I just barely remember hearing anything about it, and I watched a few YouTube clips of it before this podcast, and wow. I mean, these guys, maybe they felt like they needed to keep trying something different because their first game was a point-and-click adventure game. That was awesome. Their second game was this awesome side-scroller, and now they're trying their hand at a fighting game, basically. And it's just abysmal looking. I mean, it's got some neat little features and graphics in it, but overall it looks like a developer tried to make a fighting game that has no idea how to actually make a fighting game.
Which that happened a lot in the 90s, though.
That did, but good Lord, I would hope that maybe these guys would have, at some point, they could have seen this and been like, oh my God, this is not a good game. Let's just make another side scroller. But yeah, this is totally like a 3D kind of Power Stone. You got a little arena to run around in and a couple little platforms you can jump on. But it looks incredibly simple and just not fun at all. It's got a very sluggish looking pace to it as well.
Yeah, it definitely came out at a $20 price point, so that's your first sign that they knew as well that this was not a good game. But I think they just put too much time and effort into it that they couldn't just throw it out. So
yeah,
instead they released it. It was unimpressive, and that was the last game they put out until fairly recently. And it's not the Neverhood technically, and it's not a sequel, but Doug Tendapel and some of the guys that worked on this game and Earthworm Jim have put out a PC only so far, I believe. Kind of point-and-click adventure again, much like the Neverhood, but called Armacrog. I've not played it yet, but looking at videos of it looks very, very similar to the Neverhood.
I'll take that any day over a fighting game. It's, I've had people say since I actually found out that they put out another game that it's not, up to the standards of what the Neverhood was, but I would look forward to actually playing another. Even if it's not that great, I'll play it.
Well, I like that they're at least not redoing it. Like, it's not like they're putting out the Neverhood 2 or like a re-release of the Neverhood with all new gameplay or anything. I like that it's a very similar game, but it's a totally different thing. It's not connected, and here you go. Kind of like although it's not out yet, and so far it sounds like it's a disaster. But Mighty Number 9 versus Mega Man. That's not like he went out and said, I'm going to remake Mega Man. He said he's making his own game that's essentially Mega Man, but it's still its own thing. And if it actually works out, it'll be great. Somehow it's not seeming like it's coming together as nicely as it should, but I'll wait until I play the final version to make that decision.
Groovy. Out of sight. Cool. Shake your groove thing. Get funky. Far out, baby. Right on. Let's have some fun.
So actually, that brings me up to we do not have a listener question for this week, but I actually thought, because Armacrog being kind of its own reimagining of the idea of a game, do you guys like when companies put out either an HD remake of a classic game or an HD reimagining of a game? The ones I'm thinking of as a good comparison is maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago at this point. But they put on the Xbox 360 and I think PS3, they put out Bionic Commando Remastered, which is the original Bionic Commando for Nintendo, but with an all new HD graphic set. It looks amazing, but it's still the same game. It plays basically the same. Although you could play with a jump option if you wanted to, but you don't have to use it, and it can play exactly like the Nintendo version. But then they also at the same time put out whatever that 3D Bionic Commando was. It was a reimagining of the whole franchise that tanked as it deserved to and died horribly. I mean, did you guys even enjoy those?
I like that one actually.
Really?
Yeah, hot dog arm and all. I quite enjoyed that one.
I mean, it just depends. I mean, I love when they do a good remaster, I guess, and I'm not just talking about bringing the original game over into doing like high definition graphics or something like that. But what they did with the Bionic Commando game, that was an amazing. I mean, what is that called, a remaster or what? What would you?
I mean, I would call that a remastering because it's the same game, but it's not like they just up-res the graphics. I mean, they totally rebuilt the graphics, but kept the actual gameplay and structure and the way the levels were laid out exactly the same. But it just looks 100 times better than it did at the time.
Yeah,
much
and
like the DuckTales
really
remastering.
Great.
That was the same kind of idea. They took the original DuckTales and they did add a little bit to it, but they added it in the right way, so it doesn't feel inappropriate to be there. And they just totally redesigned, rebuilt the game from the ground up, but kept the game exactly the same. I like that.
Yeah, that's great. Now, reimagining, like with the 360 Bionic Commando with Hot Dog Arm guy, I'm okay with those, but 90% of the time they turn out awful. I never played the 360 Bionic Commando, so I'm not sure what all, but I just remember everyone hating that game with a passion, especially the story.
Since it's the only time we may be able to speak of this 360 Bionic Commando, and warning, spoilers ahead, in case you hadn't finished it yet, go ahead and pause it, finish your playthrough, then come back. Jeremy P., did you finish that game?
I didn't play the 3D one long enough to finish it, no. I beat the ones that were the remaster, and then they put out essentially their own sequel to Bionic Commando that was still a 2D, built off the same. I beat both of those, but I did not beat the 3D Bionic Commando.
Well, I was going to discuss it. Instead, I'll just put it out there. Did you know that at the end of the game, you find out that your arm is made out of your dead wife?
Wow. That is a turn not seen on the NES release.
What a dark turn indeed. And it changed the way when I went back to play the original that I looked at it, because I just assumed that's the case then also.
I don't believe that's true. I don't think it was ever part of this story. And why would you add that to the story? That's horrible.
And there you go. You've got the 360 Bionic Commando and every reason why everybody hates it. Besides, I guess, everybody saying that it was just kind of average, just how you play it. I don't know. It's fine. There have been reimaginings that I really loved. One being the Silent Hill on the Wii. Shattered Memories, I guess it was called. And that was an amazing reimagining of the first game, and just took they took that original game and they just made it their own. And there are obviously problems with it and everything, but that's one of my favorite Silent Hill games. And if you would have told me that somebody was going to reimagine one of my favorite games of all time, the original Silent Hill, I would have probably just been like, no, I'll never like that. But I loved it. So sometimes it can definitely work out, and just other times, I guess it really just depends on, who's making it and how much passion they have for the original game and what ideas they've got and how well it would work into something that would be a reimagined game of it. So I don't know. Sometimes I'm fine with it, and other times it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really hit or miss. And sometimes something that you think is not going to work. And yeah, that Silent Hill for the Wii is a shining example of something that, you're going to take a beloved game like the first Silent Hill, and now you're going to port it over to a Nintendo system. On paper, you would think, you're going to get something awful. But it turned out really great, and I really enjoyed that one. I played through it once and have always wanted to go back and play through it again. But then you take something that looks like a sure bet, and that was the Silent Hill HD remaster of 2 and 3. Yeah. And you're just going up one generation, PS2 to PS3. Get a fresh coat of paint, and that's really, really all it needs. But they messed around with that thing. It's such a shoddy conversion, and went as far as to change the sound, a lot of the soundtrack from the third one, which was a very memorable sound. I didn't even get my guitar riff at the beginning of the third one. And you don't know how long I hung out around that area just to kind of hear that for a minute or two. But yeah, I think it wildly varies. And like Jeremy said, it's how much effort they want to put into it rather than just how much money they want to make real quick.
There was I guess a thing recently about that Silent Hill HD collection and why it was in such a shoddy state. And I guess when Konami actually hired this developer to remaster them, the code that they sent them was actually it was like almost like it was half done. Konami didn't actually have the finished code to Silent Hill 2 and 3 to give them, so they actually had to give them pre-final code. And so they said they didn't even know this until they were going through the code, and it was like they had to fix all of these bugs and all this other shit that the original developers had already fixed before the game was released. So they were basically just left with a big old pile of shit that they had to salvage as much as they could. And yeah, it still didn't turn out great.
Next episode, we're going to play a game that does not have a remake as of yet. And it's actually the first time we've covered this whole genre of games. We're going to do a fighting game. We're going to do Eternal Champions for the Sega Genesis and possibly also the Sega CD. I'm not 100% sure on that yet, but we're definitely going to do the Sega Genesis version. It's a game that I played so far for 5 minutes, and I'm absolutely terrible at it, so I think one of you guys is going to have to handle running next episode. But I'm interested in playing a game I haven't played before.
Yeah, I think it's going to be all right. I think if you're going to do a fighting game, that's tough territory because most fighters are not very heavy story wise. But I think this one's interesting enough. This was a favorite of mine growing up, and we have to get in the Sega CD version if for no other reason. I think this was a selling point when I presented this game to you guys. There's a fighting chick in it.
I'm sold. I mean, I never got to play the Sega CD version of Eternal Champions, and I always wanted to because it looked kind of crazy. But as long as there's a fighting chicken in something, I will be there.
So hopefully you'll join us next time to hear about how great it is to play a Sega CD game with a fighting chicken. But until then, please check us out on Retrovania.net, and we'll see you next time.
Here's a little bonus room, 'cause I know you've had it tough. And here's a little bonus tune about collecting real cool stuff. Yes, here's a little bonus room where you can play. Don't be frightened, don't run away. You can linger, 'cause I'm your video friend. Think of me as a father figure with a hand to lend. Here's a little bonus room where you don't have to worry. Take your sweet time, you need not hurry. Oh, you're looking incredible, you're the bomb. And me, I'm kinda like your dad, and a little like your mom. There are no monsters here, hey wait, look over there. I was just kidding. Don't be scared. And when you turn this game off in the real world once again, you won't have to play make-believe or try to pretend. 'Cause I'll be right there when you open your hand. 'Cause I'm your little invisible musical friend. So show me to your pets, or show me to your pals. You really will impress every nifty guy and gal. Show them you're individual. Show them you are bold. Besides, I get residuals for every game that's sold. I'm your little invisible musical friend.